We're live, Aaron. How are you today?
I am well, thank you.
Welcome to the LinkedIn Live, the AI native future. Truly a pleasure meeting you in DC last month. Would you please just give a quick intro to the audience, your unique background?
Sure, I come from a pretty unconventional path into AI leadership. I grew up in poverty and in a home where opportunity wasn't guaranteed, and oftentimes did not have access to the kinds of things that I needed to be educated. But I became an educator because I genuinely believe that school can be the great equalizer for kids like myself. And over my career, I've served as a teacher, a principal, a curriculum director, and ultimately as assistant superintendent in Northville Public Schools. Today, I serve as an AI strategist for the state of Michigan and through a company called Michigan Virtual, and I co-chair Michigan's statewide AI work group, where I help build policy, vision, and capacity for schools across the state. I Every role I have, though, is driven by the same purpose. I really am in this work to expand opportunity for kids who don't have opportunities or a fair start. And that's why AI matters so much to me. It's a once in a generation leverage point where we can create access and personalization and support that we could never scale with human capacity alone.
Awesome. Um, can't wait to dive into AI a little bit more. But I am fascinated for a few things. One is having this AI strategist role for a state and the state of Michigan. Could you just define that a little bit more?
Sure.
Just don't be humble because, you know, it's like best practice to
Yes.
share.
Yeah, and so I was assistant super in Northville Schools, where I had been implementing AI K-12 across the district 2.5 years ago. We started to train the board, community, parents, teachers, students, and we started to begin working with tool providers pretty intensely, things like School AI and Brisk and Snorkel and Curapod and other companies. We started working with them in their early phases and introducing the classrooms and teachers and students and getting feedback on how the tools were working. And Michigan Virtual, which is a nonprofit funded by the state of Michigan, came to my district and asked to borrow me to try to replicate that work across Michigan in different places. And that work has taken me all over the state of Michigan, but really now multiple parts of the country, working with AI providers as well as school districts, helping them to set up systemic ways to implement artificial intelligence in their K-12 settings. And so, as an AI strategist, my job is to spend my days mostly working with schools in long-term relationships where I am helping them set up an AI task force and then some AI leadership with regards to their teachers, helping them look at policy and procedures, doing tool pilots and getting feedback, tool adoptions, professional development. And really, myself and two others serve as AI strategists at the state level. But my ranks of coming from district leadership have given me a unique perspective on kind of systemic application of AI, paired with my background in at-risk poverty situations. I've tried to join those two worlds to really speak for the students who I think AI will benefit most, which are kids who are in underserved, underrepresented areas. And we're taking the lessons we've learned in Northville, which is a wealthy suburb outside of Detroit, and we are replicating that in places where students who do not have those opportunities can certainly benefit from them, which includes my wife, who's a sixth grade teacher in Redford, where I have been doing some work with her over the last 2 years in her classroom to help make sure that she's in an underserved area to make sure that these AI tools and the bigger picture of what AI can do are really paying off.
Before we get to concrete examples, I do want to talk a little bit more about the bigger picture, as you just mentioned. If we zoom out a little bit, just look at children, early education, what do you think um, the biggest impact the opportunities are with AI with our children, students for their education?
I honestly think, and I am really not speaking in hyperbole here, I think AI has the potential to be the biggest educational equalizer we've ever seen if we
Okay.
use it well. Kids today are growing up in a world where intelligence is no longer a limiting factor. Access to information is no longer a limiting factor, but the equal access to get to that information is the potential problem. AI has the power to give every child a tutor, a translator, a reading coach, a writing partner, a career mentor, and to do it instantly and at scale. But my bigger view is this: AI won't just change what kids learn, it changes who they become.
Mm,
AI can free kids from compliance-based learning and shift them towards creativity, problem solving, agency, and identity formation, frankly. At the
mm,
same time, though, we do raise some new moral, ethical, and developmental responsibilities that we need to address as adults. We have to ensure kids grow up not just skilled, but grounded, able to think critically, discern truth, and understand what uniquely human strengths they bring to the world. So, in my view, the story of AI isn't about, in children, isn't just about replacing humans, it's about amplifying humanity and letting AI do the things that humanity is uniquely uh, less qualified to do. And so
awesome.
I think big picture, this is probably the biggest leverage point we've had in education in at least the last 50 years.
Awesome. So now let's ground it to so-called the K-12 because I do want to talk about post-secondary a little bit later.
Yeah.
So if we just look at K-12, right? What do you think the opportunities and the risks are? In a balanced view. Obviously, there are people who have concerns, but you already kind of elaborated on the opportunities. So just around the K-12, if you could just summarize from your point of view, based on your experience with your role, the opportunities and the risks with AI for K-12.
So I think the biggest benefit is going to be equity. For the first time,
Yeah.
students who historically needed the most support can finally get it. I used to say when I worked in Wayne Westland years ago, I felt like a cruise director on a sinking ship, and I had two kids in one life jacket, and I was having to make choices every day about which kid I was going to save. And that's an awful feeling for a school district to be in. But now students who need that can get it instantly and consistently. AI can differentiate instruction, accelerate feedback, scaffold writing, support English learners, and help special ed teachers individualize and personalize like never before. And for educators, AI can return the gift of time. Every PD I lead starts with one question: what would you do with 1 extra hour today? And suddenly teachers realize AI can give them that hour back every single day. Now, the risks are real, though, and no, number one is inequity. I mean, inequitable access is a huge risk because the gap that exists will just get wider. It will get worse if access isn't given to students who are disadvantaged in order for them to have a fighting chance. But if only some districts or income brackets get high quality AI, we widen that gap and we're not going to get it closed. As a matter of fact, we're going to get further apart. But another risk is misuse, as many people fear. AI is a shortcut instead of a thought partner. So if we use that way, we do run the risk of creating situations where kids are not learning. And
Mm.
there's a leadership risk. Schools adopting tools without vision, who don't have a plan or strategy, they lead to confusion, they lead to fear. That's why we built Michigan's statewide AI work group. We released free policy guidance, we've created an admin guide, a teacher guide, a student guide, systemic AI integration, and we're trying to help leaders build with intention and protect students' humanity while giving them more opportunities. But we have to make sure we're leading that with how to use it in the right ways, because misuse will lead to us handing off thinking to a machine, and that is not what we want to happen.
Now, could we get a few examples specifically either tools or programs, big or small. You don't have to mention the names. You could just use them as examples, however you want to share.
Sure.
Just a few examples, and I may ask for long questions,
Sure.
each one. Yeah, thank you.
What you always start with are the teacher efficiency tools, but I joke with people, it's like asking Mike Tyson to change your tire. It's really not taking on the whole set of skills that AI brings. But we start there with teacher efficiencies, how to give teachers time back to do the uniquely human elements of teaching that they love, but they have lost time doing. And so we start there and we show them how they can use some of these tools to create in ways they've never created before and to think in ways they've never thought before and to look into their students' work in ways they've never been able to. So dissect data and information. But that's where we start. Now, the power comes in when you start to use tools where you're actually giving students access to a bot with a set of guardrails, a set of scaffolds, a set of objectives that have been clearly laid out, which is very easy to do. I know it sounds complicated, but these are really easy things to set up in some of the tools we use. And in doing so, you're giving kids access to one-on-one kind of help. And what's happening in those bots when they're designed properly, it is teaching, it is identifying problems, it's scaffolding down, and then it's saying, okay, that's still not working, and scaffolding again until it finds an entry point, and then it's working its way back up. And for advanced learners, it's just moving, right? They're not being held back anymore by waiting on everybody else to be able to move forward. And so we're using tools that are handwriting recognition and voice recognition and giving mastery feedback, personalized feedback loops. So I try it, I get feedback, I try it again, I get feedback. That's something that a teacher would have a very hard time because you'd have to give an assignment or sit with a child one-on-one, ask those questions, grade or give feedback on that paper, and then do it again. That would take days and days and days. Now that's happening in the moment. So, in tools like School AI or Snorkel or CuraPod, teachers are able to push out and give students feedback either themselves or through the bots directly and quickly so that students can see what they need to do differently. And some of the tools that we're starting to see, the improvements that are being made based on teacher feedback for the most part, are giving teachers insight into the metacognition of students, giving insight into what students are capable of, what they need struggles with. I can take that chat log, put it into a chat bot, and say, as the teacher, tell me what my students don't understand. Tell me where my students are missing it. Put them into groups by deficiency. Tell me what I need to know about each of them. And that happens in seconds, right? And so now, as a teacher, I'm armed with that information that I got from those chat logs using school safe tools. And that's what's going to make a huge difference in these students' lives.
What do you see in the future if you make a wish list for the next years to come? What do you think would be most impactful?
I think we will see an intersection
Mm,
of student interest with student abilities and curriculum, whatever that looks like in the future, to be able to let AI help design individual paths and career and um, educational pathways for them in ways that we've not been doing with some of these personalized learning platforms we've talked about, but genuinely saying, oh, this young lady likes ballet and basketball. This is what she's supposed to know. This is what she doesn't know. And it's going to back up, teach her properly, and fill in those holes as you go. There's a program I'm working with now and a math provider where it's literally diagnosing the issue in math as you're doing the problem. So I'm in algebra and it says, oh, you have an order of operations issue. Figuring that out and then saying, hey, just push the button and we'll go do an order of operations lesson and then come back to algebra, right? So I'm going back to third grade, fixing the hole that I had that no one has discovered all this time. And now I'm going back to algebra because algebra wasn't the problem, order of operations was.
right.
What I see happening is programs that are now doing voice and handwriting recognition that are diagnosing things that teachers just can't do when there's 30 kids in front of them at one time. Interventionists are doing to some degree in small groups and one-on-one, but there are kids who are not getting identified and holes that are not getting plugged. But when that happens, second grade doesn't mean anything other than you're seven, right? Because right now,
Yeah.
when I ask people, what does it mean to be a second grader? No one can tell me. All they can tell me is they're 7 years old because they're not all the same level. They're not all able to do kindergarten and first grade standards. So in the future, I see, hey, there might be 7 year olds in a room together, but they're moving at a pace they need to. And the teacher is monitoring, facilitating, inspiring curiosity, inspiring a level of learning, helping kids in small groups and one-on-one while all students continue to advance at the pace they need. That's what I'm hoping for, where education really shifts around to make sure every kid is being given what they need instead of having to teach to the middle and hope that we make a difference.
Awesome. Great. So I want to move up a level and get your point of view as an educator for K-12 in terms of what you see as the risks and opportunities for post-secondary education, meaning not just colleges, universities, but potentially vocational schools, trade schools,
Yeah.
or technical training schools. So what's your grand view for the extended education after K-12?
I have a unique perspective right now because my daughter is currently she's 18 years old, but she's already finished her associate's degree
Oh,
in
wow.
high school and she's trying to figure out what to do next. And my son, who's on the autism spectrum, is 21 and looking for post high school that's or not college specific.
I see.
And I'm working with a center-based program here where we're trying to build a career center for underemployed adults post high school. And here's what I'll say. I don't think higher education is being disrupted. I think it's being redefined.
Mm,
And it's a little uncomfortable for many of them. But for decades, we've sent students into pathways that assume information scarcity, and that's not true anymore. And so the value of post-secondary education will be less about content mastery and more about coaching, mentorship, applied experiences, problem solving, and human development, because that's the part that they're going to need to be successful in a world where content is readily available. Colleges that double down on relationships, real world learning, adaptive skill building are going to thrive. Those that cling to content delivery models and traditional styles, they'll struggle. But vocational
mm,
and technical programs, I think they will surge. I think they're already starting to see that surge because AI enhances hands on fields instead of automating them out. And we're moving toward a world where credentials matter less and capability matters more because these are skills you can't always teach in a college classroom or in a post-secondary. It's that ability to work with others, problem solve, be motivated to work. And we're moving to a world where that is more important, and higher ed needs to prepare students to work with AI and not compete against it. I had a conversation with a 21-year-old whose mom asked me to talk to him because he was struggling post college with being employed. And the reality was the college told him AI is a bad thing, it's cheating. And so he's now not able to land a position because he can't talk about how in his role, which is a role that is absolutely going to be dominated by AI, he's going
right.
into these interviews unprepared. And now he can't find a job because the college didn't prepare him for that. They prepared him to see AI as the enemy. And so most companies, I think the number that I saw last survey was around 53% said it's mandatory. It's an expectation that you're going to have some AI concentration. So no matter whether it's vocational or college, AI preparation is going to be essential because it's going to affect every area. I tell people all the time, there's no area. If you're a plumber in the future, you're going to take a picture of the problem. AI is going to diagnose it. You're going to order a part from the place that's going to send a drone and drop it in the front yard, and you're going to finish that problem in half the time as a person not using AI. So I don't care what field you're in, AI will infiltrate. Again, it's not about replacing people. It's about changing and again redefining what that looks like. And so post-secondary has to continue. Now, again, traditional and voc ed, they are most positioned for this because they have kind of shaken off that traditional piece a long time ago. But we also have had a situation where it's like, oh, those who can't go to college go to vocational. Well, that's got to end. That's ridiculous because when you look at the vocational and trades opportunities that are out there,
Yeah.
not only are they well beyond this idea of like those who can't go to college, but it is fascinating fields that they're doing around medical investigation and graphic design and other things that are beyond the realm of just simple career tech and most people have in their minds. And frankly, when you think about the way that our cars are built, the way that things are built, you have to have some very high level skills to be able to even just work on an automobile anymore. It's a giant computer, right? So there is no area that won't be affected, and vocational ed has got the edge. And traditional college, I think they're going to see their numbers slip pretty quickly, especially as people who are interviewing for these jobs get tired of hearing people say, I don't know how to use AI because I went to college. So those colleges that make that adjustment, I think, are going to be well suited.
Very insightful. By the way, we just did a press release today for student in residence at Mascot Go, which is really to fill the gap for high schoolers and college students to give them hands-on AI, building AI, using AI, or building AI solutions, hands-on experience. So I will send you more info after this, but you're ahead of me, kind of laying out the landscape already. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So now I really just want to sort of sum it up in terms of this career path for generations forward. Now AI is here to stay. I think both you and I agree on that. And I think you already spoke to this point previously. But if you would just look at human as a careers versus just you have to work to make a living, I think technology productivity would enable us to have more of a joy while they work, but it's more of a career minded uh, or career mindset. What advice, what vision you have for younger generation for them to think about their career, knowing that AI and technology, robotics, and the AI native future is right in front of them right now.
My advice is really simple. Become the kind of human that AI cannot replace. Lean into creativity, empathy, leadership, communication, problem solving. Develop a brand of adaptability. My daughter and I were just talking today. We met with her advisor about which path to take. And I said, honestly, you're going to get a degree because the world requires that right now. You're going to do that because that's what you need to do, but you are going to adapt to whatever you decide to do. You're going to find a way to use those skills in a path that may be completely unrelated to what your degree is in. And we know from futurists that the numbers are something like students will have careers in 5 to 6 different fields over their lifetime now. There's no more working in the same place for 30 years. People don't retire, they rewire now. And so, develop that adaptability because the career students hold in 2035, they probably don't exist yet, frankly. I also tell students don't avoid AI, you need to master it. Not using it again as a way to offload your thinking, but like use it to like I use AI to become a thought partner, to play devil's advocate, to help me understand where my thinking may be flawed, to give me multiple ways to look at things. When you can use AI that way and you master it, you are going to become what feels like the smartest person in the room. And not because AI told you what to say, but because you refined your own thinking using AI to help provide a different viewpoint and to identify where holes exist, where blind spots are. That's why AI can be so powerful because oftentimes your fellow humans will not always do that for you because of the emotional connections or the way in which we are probably hanging around with people who see things similarly that we do. We get a little bit of that echo chamber, but the kids who treat AI as a thought partner, not a shortcut, will accelerate faster than any generation before them. I have no doubt we will see huge gains in medicine, in technology, in law, and across the board. And finally, I think they need to choose careers that lift others. We don't need more people competing with machines. Like it's time to stop competing with the machines. If you're doing something that a machine can do, you need more people using machines to elevate humans. People using machines, I'm sorry, to elevate humans. So think about jobs that will allow you to use the power of AI and automation and machines to lift up the human race because there are lots of ways to improve when it comes to cancer research and other things that now that you don't have to spend so much time analyzing the data, you can spend more time using that human element to think about, well, what if we tried this?
Right.
And that's what I think people need to be thinking about is that adaptability to say, wow, if we did this and this, now that I know this information, maybe we can do something better. And that's where we've always, as a humanity, as a humankind, we've always been able to move on and accelerate past. And I think that can happen faster than ever because we're speeding up that process. But that doesn't work if you just offload it and say, do my thinking for me, write my stuff for me. That's not how AI can help because you will become the person nobody trusts or goes to or asks advice of because the things you do and say are mediocre.
Right. Fascinating. Um, we've covered a lot. Are there things that you want to share with the audience before we stop the streaming?
I would just give advice to K-12 schools. First of all, if you're
Mhm.
not doing something, do something. I mean, ChatGPT is almost 3 years old this year. You are behind already, and your kids deserve to have these opportunities. Please don't be scared of it because you don't understand it. Get informed, learn, and grow. Because while there are problems that we will have to overcome with AI, like any other major discovery in history, those students in places where they're not having access, the difference in the future is going to be what I do with AI. Because if I have AI and you don't, I will perform better than you. If we both have AI, it's going to be about what I do with it versus what you do with it. But it is not fair for students because of their zip code or their status in life that they don't have the opportunity to have those things in front of them. And so, if you work in those places, please reach out to someone who can help and make a difference for those kids because they deserve an opportunity. If they choose not to act on it, I get that, but we need to give them the opportunity and not make the choice for them.
Absolutely do it with AI for K-12. Give your student the access. You can all reach out to Aaron on LinkedIn. I've been following him since I met him. He's very active. And thank you so much, Aaron, for sharing your insights and work experience and your vision. And we'd love to have you back. We'd love to have you mentor our SIR, student in residence. I think you can provide a great guidance for them.
Yeah,
I will
absolutely.
follow up to share more about the program with you for your state, for high schoolers, because we have great college students, even, master degree students with, computer science and machine learning, but we don't have many high school students. Would love to have more high school students to be part of the program.
That
Thank
would
you
be
so
awesome.
much. I'm
Thank you for
going.
having me. It's been a pleasure being here with you.